Of November has been described earlier on as we were starting the show. You had CS Mutahi Kagwe describing it as a dark month, and indeed it has been, because so far, as Yvonne told us a little earlier, we've actually had 334 deaths just in November alone. That is more than 100 or so more than, almost 100 more than what we saw last month. And so you can imagine we have this kind of surge in 1 month, and the numbers are growing, and the concern too is growing, yet you don't feel that sense of urgency, you don't feel the sense of emergency around our streets. Yvonne, what concerns you the most about where we are right now with COVID-19?
The first 19 days of October, we had 132 deaths. The first 19 days of November, we have 334 deaths. That's about 2.5 times, the number of deaths that we've seen. This is the month where on the 14th of November, 4 doctors died in one day. And then all of this happening at a point when, in fact, so much so, was this worrying that the Cabinet Secretary of Health, Kagwe, issued a call for a special meeting of the National Emergency Response Committee, and he said it was to review rising cases, amongst other issues, obviously to do with the doctors as well. On the 16th of November, he had 2 meetings, one with the Medical Practitioners Union and another with the Emergency Response Committee. And there were a couple of things that came up where he talked about now the counties, governments, county governors will have, specific county meetings and issue that sort of thing. But I think many Kenyans were hoping for maybe something of a new strategy, something of a different approach, considering where we are with November. What concerns me now with the fact that we're not seeming to see anything new or different, although granted, what more can they do? I don't know. But what is more concerning is that we're now going into the festive season. And that is going to be a time when many people will want to meet with family. There's a lot of Christmas shopping that's going on. There's a lot of family gatherings. That for me is particularly concerning in this situation.
And Jamila, a lot of people, as Yvonne says, found that statement from the CS a little underwhelming after he had painted this picture of a very dark period that you were in, and people were expecting, a lot of people at least, were expecting that there would be definitive measures, things that would signal to the country that there is something that is being done, because I don't think we can get to a point where the government says there's nothing we can do. So what are you hearing? I mean, just speaking to people in the medical fraternity, people who know something or two about this virus, what can we do now? Because, I mean, we can't just throw our hands up in the air and say, it is done, we let whatever happen.
Joe, most of what they'll tell you, my older brother is a doctor. He's one of the frontline doctors who are working with COVID-19 patients. He's diabetic, and for him it's a bigger risk, but he still goes to work. And he tells me it's just the basics for him. Wash hands, avoid crowds, put on your mask, and just be vigilant, because you care about yourself and those around you. That's number one. And number two, he also tells me about what they see when they're in the wards, in the hospital. Yes, there was a time between end of August into September that the numbers were going down, that they were having fewer patients in the ICU, that they were having fewer patients in the wards. In fact, there was a time he told me they had only 3 patients in the ICU at the hospital he works in, where they have space beds for 24. He said they had about 3. In the wards, they have space for about 300. There was a time they had less than half that number. That was around the end of August towards September. And if you look at the statistics for that period, in September, the daily average was 144 infections. If you compare it with now, where we have a daily average of about 970 people getting infected. And it was around that time that we decided to legeza kamba kidogo. That was on 28th of September when the president announced, now some of the measures, curfew lipunguka kidogo, we opened restaurants and bars, and we started allowing more people at weddings and funerals and all that. But if you compare between then and now, what walijisahau? The number of people who died between 28th of September and today is 630. The number of infections has gone up. And it's because once the restrictions were eased, what walijisahau? We don't see people with masks anymore. We rarely do. Of course, in the past few, I think week or two, we've been seeing now roundup people being arrested because of being out after curfew, people being arrested for wearing masks. But really, it's just those basics in terms of VA mask, osha mkono. Do you know how vigilant we were in the beginning? May, April, June. We were very vigilant, very careful, walking around sanitizers, wearing masks, even kwa matatu, kwa stage, watu wanaosha mkono. That's how we were able to actually start reducing the numbers. But now, because we've gone back to where we were, our numbers of infection and death every day is staggering. We have 15% of people every single day. If you look at infections, 15% and above. I remember, according to WHO, for you to say now you're flattening the curve, 5% for at least 2 weeks. And we were almost there around September, by the time we eased restrictions. So I think basically just go back to the basics. Wash hands, wear your mask, maintain social distancing, and just try and take care of yourself and others around you.
Linus, Yvonne talked about the festive season beckoning. I mean, you've seen, for example, in the US, they're grappling with this whole thing of Thanksgiving. What happens? There are families who are saying, well, everybody must be tested before they come. I mean, some doctors saying, no, don't try it. I mean, just stay where you are. You can do a Zoom and eat your own turkey wherever you are. But we don't hear a lot of that conversation here, or the contingency planning around the festive season that, as we know in this country, tends to be quite busy. I mean, people go shopping, people travel up country, and all manner of things happen that could actually be super spreader events. I mean, people have parties and that sort of thing.
You know, Joe, we had the State of the Nation exactly a week ago today. And from it, I could sense that there is official lethargy. We're getting tired with COVID-19 at an official level. So much so that I think the government prefers that individuals now take charge. In the same way they've taken charge on the question of HIV/AIDS. You are on your own. I think that is the quiet message that every Kenyan should get. And it's coming out in very painful and agonizing fashions. One, you notice that the insurance companies, the government insurance company, the NHIF, have all stepped back. They're not going to take care of any of any.
Actually, we have. I think we have that soundbite of Mutahi Kagwe talking about the NHIF situation.
Yeah. Sure.
We have instructed the National Insurance Hospital Fund to quickly conclude the negotiations for comprehensive group life, last expense, enhanced work and injury benefits, and group personal accident cover for COVID-19 as approved by the Cabinet, and announce the conclusion and effectiveness of those insurance benefits tomorrow.
So tomorrow is today. We're going to wait and see what comes out of those negotiations. But what we do know is insurance companies are under a lot of pressure, Joe, when it comes to costs of treatment of COVID-19. The other issue that should really concern us is the struggle that the frontline workers are going through right now. It's very, very sad to hear the stories that are coming out of the frontline. We have doctors, we have medical workers who cannot afford the treatment they prescribe to COVID-19 patients. They are dying. And I was moved by the story of Dr. Jacqueline Njoroge, who's been reported as saying, her last words were, "Bill ni pesa ngapi?" You know, asking how much the bill was. This was a senior person at the Thika Level 5 hospital, and she died, a mother of two, and she is one of the 2,532 healthcare workers who contracted this disease. So it's looking really, really grim. And the answers are growing fewer. The avenues out is growing extremely narrow every day. You hear Mutahi Kagwe speaking, you hear the president speaking, and you don't hear a lot of hope in terms and direction in terms of where next we should go. I think we're in that phase again that I described earlier of you are on your own.
And Linus talks about people being tired of this thing, and that's something you see everywhere. The other day the WHO said, you know what, you may be tired of COVID-19, but it's not tired of you. It will still come. I don't know where you walk, talk to people, see, I don't see people wearing masks. I don't see people taking this as seriously as we used to. How much does that concern you? I mean, talking to people, what is it? Why are people, kind of moving on as if life returns to normal?
I look at it from the pandemic fatigue point of view. You'll even see, walking around, you'll ask people why they're not wearing their masks, and they tell you, hii kitu inachokesha. Or you see some carrying the mask on their hand, and they only do it because they don't want to be arrested, which I think is the wrong way to look at it. It's not the police officers who will be sick, it's not the government. Personal responsibility will begin with us. But even as we deal with this, I think it is important also to continue telling people the very basic things so that they don't forget about them, because the disease is not slowing down anytime soon. In fact, I heard the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health officials say they have done their projections, and even at this time next year we will still be having the virus. So it tells you that we have almost a year to deal with it, and the vaccine, we are not yet there. Before we started the show, I was speaking to a friend of mine in Thika, and he was telling me this evening a former councillor in Thika passed on, and the reason why he passed on was because he couldn't access oxygen in the hospital, and that got me worried, because the number of, while everybody is concentrating on the number of people who have died, the number of infections that we have, there are some specific numbers at the tail end of the statement every day that very few people pay attention to, but that's a very critical area to look at. We're talking about 1,116 people in hospital.
Yes.
We're talking about 6,232 people on home-based care. And we're talking about 59 people in ICU to date, and a few others were also requiring ventilators and everything else. And when you hear hospitals and medical personnel tell you that they are overwhelmed, the facilities they have are overwhelmed, then it becomes a very serious area of concern. And I think no one should slow down, no one should let their guard down, because we are still not yet out of the woods.
Another thing that concerns me is just to add on to what Linus had mentioned regarding health workers. So remember, the government was supposed to hire more healthcare workers. 188 slots were to be filled. They filled them all right. They gave them a 6-month contract, no medical cover. They were sent straight to the isolation centers. And these are stories that we're hearing from the doctors themselves. They started work in August and are yet to be paid. How on earth will they then be able to afford anything, let alone even the medical cover? When the KMPDU issued the strike notice, there was something noteworthy that they said, that they felt that they have been ignored by the Ministry of Health officials and were therefore calling on the president at that level. And this was the point at which we now saw the cabinet secretary organizing for that meeting that took place earlier this week on the 16th of November. And that was when he announced, and he said, that asking the NHIF to quickly conclude that medical cover. That medical cover, ladies and gentlemen, was approved by cabinet on the 10th of September. And this was again after outcry. Everything that happens in this country, particularly in the health sector, has got to be the doctors threatening, has got to be them outcry, has got to be that 100-day strike that we saw before the 2017 election. I mean, we cannot continue this way, where we have responses to very substantive issues that are being raised, and it's only happening after some heartbreaking stories of doctors who are moving from Eldoret to Nakuru and hoping and praying for an ICU bed in Nairobi. If doctors cannot get access to the best healthcare possible, then pray tell, can we expect anything better? When you hear stories of, one of the doctors who died, in Eldoret, his wife was also a doctor, and she got to the point where she realized, being a doctor herself, that there was nothing more that could happen. And you hear the heartbreaking tale of how she gave up. And she walked away from the hospital and said, you know what, it is finished. And later that night, her husband passed away. And this is not just the story of healthcare workers, this is the story of every Kenyan who has died, the over 1,300 of them. Something needs to be done. When you take a look at the cost, you know, of treating and managing this, the cost of testing, all of these are things that deeply concern me and that shouldn't be happening in this day and age.
It's indeed heartbreaking. I mean, it's horror stories that we've had all over the country over the last several months, and someone who said that it's difficult to do the right thing in this country for some reason. We seem to have a national hobby of doing everything the hard way.